the Q&A panel, which we'll look at during the webcast. Hopefully we'll answer most of your questions. We'll have a Q&A session at the end, but also any questions we don't get to, we will follow up with you and certainly get those questions answered. So we really have hit a milestone today. We're very excited to take you through the Transparency Report program process from start to finish, and also show you on our website that Part A of our two-part PCR process is now up for public comment, along with the Part Bs that have already been up for public comment. So the whole program is there. There's examples, and we're really excited to share all of that with you. It's been a long time in the development process. The outline of today's content will be to give you some background on Sustainable Minds and our products for those of you who are not familiar with us, and then to really build the business case for the market drivers. What's the problem that we're actually trying to solve? And some of the research insights we did to inform this new product development that became the Transparency Report program. So what is it? It's not just a PCR EPD process. It's a comprehensive program to help product manufacturers design and market greener products. And then we'll dive into the technical framework, how that works, and the technical underpinnings that hopefully over time will not become the subject of a lot of discussion. It will just be the way the program runs. And the focus, as you'll see, will be on delivering quality, comparable, understandable, and standardized information to the marketplace. So a little bit of background about us. Sustainable Minds was the first company 6 years ago to bring a streamlined eco-design and LCA software solution designed particularly for product development teams, so non-lifecycle assessment experts, to be able to integrate lifecycle thinking and lifecycle assessment into the product development process. And since that time, we've been adopted not only in industry, but very broadly adopted in education, in every discipline, business, design, and engineering, and every type of engineering, actually, chemical, environmental, civil, mechanical, industrial design, and now architecture. And so we're very excited about the uptake in education, as it definitely reflects the makeup of people in organizations, and certainly the makeup of people in organizations who make decisions about products. This is a screen capture of one of the screens in the Sustainable Minds Eco-Design and LCA software application, but it brings home the point that there is no such thing as a green product, that green is simply a relative value, and it's actually a colloquial term. We use green as a placeholder for the term environmental performance, and you'll see me use the terms interchangeably, but there is no such thing as a green product. All products use materials, they all create waste. Green can only be greener, and it's all about being able to make comparisons and provide information around, what does it mean, and what are going to be the right decisions to make for the particular manufacturer and its customers. Now, our mission as a company that drove us to develop this application, our mission is to operationalize environmental performance into mainstream product development and manufacturing to drive revenue and growth through greener product innovations. I want to be very clear. Sustainable Minds is a software and services company. Our services are designed to implement our software solutions into our customers' organizations. And that's going to be important as we explain the Transparency Report program, which is both a software and a managed service solution. So we've been in the business of helping manufacturers and educators and students design greener products, but today we're now faced with more people, and here I'm using a stereotypical image of what we've probably met a few architects and they look like this, but now the building and construction industry is really facing a whole new set of performance metrics requiring new kinds of analytics and therefore new formats for reporting. And it's very kind of uncharted territory, very complex, and adding a whole bunch more work to the work that everybody already has on their plate, which nobody really likes to do. But the fact is that, I apologize for that intrusion. The fact is that today, as manufacturers try to bring greener products to market and make the business case to specifiers, it's really all about building a brand, building a greener brand, helping people make better decisions, and ultimately to bring more and better products into the marketplace. Building a brand is about building trust and ultimately about creating preference. And as the marketplace continues to grow and the demand for greener products continues to grow, building a greener brand is one of the most important aspects. A trusted greener brand is one of the most important aspects of growth. So the way we look at the problem today is that manufacturers face two key problems. They both want and need to design greener products and now market greener products. Ultimately, it's all about making better decisions, better design decisions, better marketing decisions, and better purchase decisions. So now Sustainable Minds really has two products, our flagship EcoDesign and LCA cloud software application, and now our Transparency Report program to help product manufacturers design and market greener products. So diving into the story a little bit, both of our products are based on lifecycle assessment. And when we started the company, lifecycle assessment was still something that was a pretty rarefied field of activity. Not a lot of people knew about it, but it really has made quite a comeback or quite a growth in the marketplace, driven by Walmart and some of the other retailers, but really has grown across industries. And now we've seen market demand for transparency. Instead of allowing for greenwashing, which is kind of an earlier concept, it's really driving demand for life cycle-based reporting standards and certifications. There is no dispute that it is the globally recognized scientific method to measure the relative greenness of products and systems. But as we all know, LCA represents some pretty substantive systemic challenges. It's expensive and time-consuming. There's a shortage of people who know how to do it. There's a shortage of useful life cycle inventory data. There's no standardized delivery or distribution of quality data. There's also no distribution for metrics guidelines, templates for reporting. And at the end of the day, the business drivers and ultimately the business case for manufacturers to do LCAs may be well made to get those LCAs done, but at the end of the day, often manufacturers have not been good at leveraging that LCA investment into either product development or product marketing, largely because so much time gets spent on the activity of doing the LCA, the inventory, the data collection, all of that. By the time the LCA is completed, often short shrift is spent on the interpretation of results and then the application of that interpretation to meaningful actions and activities. And so we really are focused on and have always been focused on, let's help manufacturers and people in product development teams think differently. So that's the eco design, but then they have to measure. That's the LCA. So thinking differently without measuring isn't going to produce results that are credibly meaningful, and just measuring without thinking differently may only produce incremental improvements or no improvements at all. So you really have to put the two together and interpret the results and turn them into actionable activities. So, fast forwarding to last year, actually 2013, we were super excited to see the USGBC release LEED version 4, and included in LEED version 4 is a credit for transparency reporting. And product transparency is starting with an environmental product declaration. There's now the health product declaration. And what we foresee is there will be increasingly other types of environmental performance information that's going to become relevant not only in the building products industry, but every industry, or each industry will have their own KPIs, methodologies, standards that will be important for reporting. And ultimately, there is going to need to be a system that standardizes that effort and makes those results consistent, scalable, simplified, and meaningful. When LEED decided to add this credit to the credit language, it turned to a group of technical LCA folks who said, yes, there is a way to report on product transparency. There's a whole series of ISO guidelines for the PCR LCA EPD process, and that's what we'll start implementing. Thought I had fixed that problem. Anyway, LEED version 4 goes into effect in June 2015, and there's no backwards certification. And I throw this stat on the slide about how big the building products industry is because the demand for greener products is only anticipated to grow increasingly and exponentially. So it's a big and growing market that every product manufacturer can continue to get a piece of if they see that as a real growth opportunity. So we believe the USGBC was really smart to incentivize manufacturers to make greener products and offer customers more and better options. And we also believe that the manufacturers making greener products should be rewarded. And so should architects, builders, and contractors who are specifying greener products. They should be rewarded. But what we've learned is that this wholesale adoption of the current ISO practices for transparency reporting have put the bar so high, it's extremely challenging and kind of fraught with confusion. So there's been not a rush to comply or participate by product manufacturers, and architects and those specifiers are even reticent to consider version 4 because they're concerned manufacturers won't be ready. And the other thing we noticed was that the manufacturers who have produced EPDs and those architects, builders, and contractors specifying those products are doing that, and that is great. And the process really is they'll look to find out, are there EPDs? That's great. The specification process that makes that easier. They get to check a box. Yes, this product has an EPD. But what they probably know, or maybe some don't, is that the presence of an EPD is not an indication of a greener product. It's simply the indication that a manufacturer has produced an LCA and has reported on those results. What we believe is that as the playing field ultimately gets leveled and more manufacturers are participating in product transparency, soon box checking isn't going to satisfy that real demand for product transparency, because making greener purchase decisions or making any kind of purchase decision requires understandable, meaningful, and ultimately consistent information. So you make it easier for your customers to make that purchase decision that is your product. But now pulling away from this LCA, EPD, PCR arena, I just want to kind of bring us up to the higher level, which is what's the real problem that needs to get solved? And I really like this quote from Paul, who we are really proud to be able to say is our green building expert advisor. But here's the fact that there is going to be a continuous amount of green data that's going to need to be available. It's complex, and it needs to be simplified, categorized, so it's consumable. And it needs to be consumable anywhere by anyone at any point in the building process. The only way that this is going to happen is through a technical solution. And so what we believe is that to achieve the result, to solve the actual problem, it requires a holistic solution. And so to create credibly greener products, design and marketing must be integrated. And to do that, the tools and knowledge need to be integrated, collaborative, and scalable. So just a quick, tiny little tutorial for those of you who are not super familiar with the acronyms PCR, LCA, and EPD and how they fit together. This is my most favorite explanation I've ever found, courtesy of NSF Sustainability. Makes it real simple. Product category rule is the document that defines how life cycle analysis will be done on a product group. Then the LCA gets done according to the specifics of the PCR. And then the environmental product declaration, the EPD, is the output, the summary of that LCA. And the PCR describes not only how the LCA gets done, but the content that goes into the EPD. Now, because PCRs and LCAs and EPDs were designed by technical LCA people, the requirements for what goes into an environmental product declaration, no surprise, is largely technical LCA information. And so, as we had this awareness over a year and a half ago to get started on a new solution, which in fact, this is where we're proud to mention our customer, Toto. It was over a year and a half ago when Bill Strang, the president of North American Operations, who's been a Sustainable Minds customer for a number of years, said to us, we're going to need EPDs. We need to figure this out. And so we decided, let's not just take this at face value. Let's figure out what really can help product manufacturers like Toto, who are committed to improving the environmental performance of their products and adding credible green attributes to their brand. How could we do this through a new way of telling these kinds of stories? So we did a pretty broad research study where we evaluated a very broad range of EPDs. The images that you're seeing here are just a selection. We looked at European EPDs, North American EPDs, different product categories. We looked at documents that weren't EPDs. We looked at long ones, short ones. And ultimately, our findings were that most were too long, too technical, really no interpretation or explanation of what the LCA results mean, lots of other technical environmental data, little to no product marketing information. And in my former life, I was a graphic designer, and it made me wonder why, if environmental performance is just the latest criteria in product development, why then in marketing is it relegated to a separate brochure? And why must a product manufacturer have a brochure for the functional and design attributes of their product and a completely separate brochure for the environmental attributes? Shouldn't it all be in one place? Because a customer needs to consider all of those attributes to make a purchase decision. So our research conclusions, broadly summarized, was we identified there needs to be a comprehensive solution. Incremental solutions aren't going to solve the actual problem. Better design makes the complex clear. If we're going to ask people to do things differently, we have to provide real advantages over how things are done today. We need to allow for continual improvement based on learning, because things don't take a time out for everybody to get on the same page and then get started again. So there needs to be a way for people to engage, move forward, and evolve over time. There needs to be a focus on the benefits of the solution, the benefits the solution provides, and not the process of creating the solution. Which brings us to the punchline, which is it's all about the report and how the information is delivered. The PCR is a means to an end. So we adopted an internal motto, which I'm sharing with you externally, just keep the science, but let's re-engineer the process. So here it is. It's all about the transparency report. It's all about helping manufacturers leverage their investment in lifecycle assessment to create credible, comprehensive, and affordable marketing tools and effectively present a greener brand. So the Transparency Report program consists of 3 components. It provides options to get started with transparency reporting. We've developed really what is a reverse engineered PCR process based on a standardized framework to provide a cost-effective way to create PCRs for product groups. And we're going to talk about that distinction in just a little bit. It also then delivers a strategic marketing and lead generation tool. We like to refer to it as an EPD++. It helps make greener purchase decisions by making LCA and environmental performance information understandable and meaningful. It enables a manufacturer to describe what they're really doing to make their products greener. This is a brand story. We really understand what we're doing and how we make our products and how our products impact the planet. Let us tell you about what we're doing to make greener products. We also have built in 3 verification levels, as over time, manufacturers will want to choose. How important is it to produce verified and certified, third-party verified and certified reports based on what their customers are requesting? It's an extensible report where additional types of environmental reports can be added very easily. It's modular. And again, with the same approach of providing an overview and simplification and interpretation. And best of all, they live in the cloud. The information is not encoded in PDFs, which means that the data can be used and reused, streamed to other locations, linked to, and on display in the Sustainable Minds manufacturer showroom. And finally, one of the deliverables of the Transparency Report program is to help manufacturers start designing greener. So once your report or your reports have been created and published, you'll also get back your product data in a private data set in our Sustainable Minds Eco-Concept and LCA software, so that then your product teams can start designing or redesigning your existing products to look for the best strategies to create real environmental performance improvement. So here's how we think about the Transparency Report program. That it helps product manufacturers make greener product decisions, and that marketing and designing greener should be a continuous improvement loop. So we've started here on the marketing side. Manufacturers certainly can start on the design side, saying, I need to design greener. In this case, you're starting out, I need product transparency. That's the first step, that's awareness. The next step is to develop a product group definition. And from that product group definition, develop your lifecycle assessment. And I'm going to insert this comment here right now. The LCA that you do for the background report for a transparency report is a full LCA done using Gabby or SEMA Pro, not the Sustainable Minds software. This is about using the right tool for the job to do a full ISO compliant LCA. The right tools are Gabby or SEMA Pro. To use Gabby or SEMA Pro to do your LCA according to the Sustainable Minds Transparency Report Framework, Parts A and B, which we're going to get into. Concurrently, you can start developing the content for your transparency reports. Once those reports are completed and they're verified and certified or not, they get published in the Sustainable Minds Manufacturer Showroom. And as I said, the data from your products is then delivered to you in your own private data folder in your own new Sustainable Minds Eco-Design, Eco-Concept and LCA software account, where your product development teams can then hopefully design greener products. And then when it's time, go and update your life cycle assessment and be able to update your transparency report. Because it lives in the cloud, you can update at any time, you can change marketing information. It's a much more scalable and easily maintainable process. So let's get into some of the detail. What does a transparency report look like? Again, this came out of our research findings. People, as you all know, really don't want to read. They want pictures and they want quick information that answers the questions, that helps them decide, does this product meet my specifications? Does it meet my design requirements? Is it going to meet my price point? It's 3 pages, so everything you'd want to know about the product is here on the dashboard. You've got marketing pictures, you've got the description of the product in the dashboard, you've got functional performance attributes and environmental performance attributes, and we are going to look at a live report, so bear with me. Page 2 is where all of your life cycle assessment results and the interpretation live. So all of the content required in a Type 3 environmental declaration here on page 2. And here's an optional page, but actually, the real differentiator page is where a manufacturer gets to tell their stories about what they're doing in each stage of the product's life cycle, how they're improving the environmental performance of their products. And the story starts here on the LCA page. Here are actual images from the manufacturing process. If the manufacturer chooses to include those images, the interpretation explains what's happening. Here's a quick caption of that same interpretation by each life cycle stage. And it leads into this story on page 3, what's actually happening in each life cycle stage. Now, because the transparency report is prescriptive in terms of the types of content and where that content lives, it's not limiting in the amount of content or in terms of what the content actually says, but it does allow for a user reading multiple transparency reports to find the information that they're looking for in the same place. So on page 2, in the left column, you've got the scope of the LCA, the attributes, the summary. In the right column is the interpretation and the explanation in simple, plain language. Here you have the detailed data from the LCA and the characterized results. And in the bottom, you have the reference links to background report, the transparency report framework, parts A and B, and the value of the report in several of the rating systems. On every page in the footer, it's very clear the scope of the LCA that was used as the background report, and the level of verification and certification. Now, again, we made it possible for anyone to get started with transparency reporting. So a manufacturer can do the transparency report using a self-declared LCA, and the report can also be self-declared. And it's very clear. When a customer or a prospect starts to evaluate products from the same manufacturer or from other manufacturers, it's very clear both the scope of the LCA and the level of verification and certification the market will decide. We are really, really proud and have been excited, for over a year now, to be working with NSF as the first organization to certify, verify, and certify transparency reports, and we'll have more news about that in the coming weeks. You can see here, this is a explanation of the rating system and how the levels of LCA verification and report certification translate to the LEED rating system. So you get no product points if your LCA is self-declared and your report is self-declared. That may or may not be important to you. It may not be important to your customers. It's an option. You can have your LCA verified and not have your report certified. The report can be self-declared. In the LEED terminology, that's called a product-specific declaration. That gets you a quarter product point. And if you get your LCA verified and your report certified, you earn a full product credit. Here's a visualization of the transparency report manufacturer's showroom, where manufacturers across the value chain will be able to showcase their transparency reports and transparency data sheets, which is another product that we offer and not getting into in this particular webcast. But manufacturers who are interested in specifying and designing with greener materials, processes, parts and components, and finished products will be able to come to the showroom and find consistent, standardized, comparable information that, again, can be linked to from BIM sites, BIM models, manufacturers, websites, and ultimately the data is available to be used in other types of applications as we move into the realm of whole building modeling, or even new types of mobile apps and all the things that are going to help streamline access to data. Here's a quick screenshot of when the program is complete. We deliver back to you the data from your products into your own private data set in the Sustainable Minds application, again, to allow your product teams to try to design and improve the environmental performance of your products. All right, so now let's dig into the methodology, the Sustainable Minds Transparency Report framework. It's based on a number of industry standards and guidelines, EN 15804, and ISO 14040 and 44, 14025. The framework is illustrated or delivered through a series of tools. Our product category rule is a two-part process, a part A, the LCA calculation and report requirements. That's where all the rules for how the LCA gets done and what goes into the transparency report is in that part A. And part B is the product group definition that describes the additional rules required for comparability of product groups. And we're really going to have a discussion about the product group definition as an innovation. The next is the governance and program rules document that describes how the program operates, who's involved. And finally, the transparency report content collection forms. And I'm just going to come back to the point that the transparency report is a managed service. We walk you through the process, whether you, a manufacturer, have your own internal LCA resources, or you're using an external LCA consultant, or you're working with Sustainable Minds to deliver the LCA. We work with any of those service providers and your marketing folks to collect the content, very standardized collection forms. We take that content and Sustainable Minds produces the finished transparency reports. There is no, today, direct transfer of data from Gabby or SEMA Pro into Sustainable Minds transparency report. We only collect the finished content from you. We can get into more detail offline on that process, but I wanted to really make that clear because that question came up recently. This is a quick overview of really the recipe for the transparency report. It involves standards, people, and process. And you put it all together and you get the transparency report program. The governance and program rules, again, I just wanted to point out that it is a people part of the equation. And so part of the innovation in the program is the technical advisory board, who acts as an expert board to evaluate the work that manufacturers are doing and to curate all of the public comments as applicable to the product group definitions created by the product manufacturers. And we are really excited about the folks who have joined the tab, participating in the tab, but also who we're in discussions with to build out that organization. As I mentioned, Part A is based on EN 15804, 14044, and 14025. So the ISO standards define how the LCA gets done, the LCA story, and if EN 15804 defines how to apply the LCA to create environmental declarations. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with EN 15804, it's a European standard created by the European Committee for Standardization. It includes all the rules that apply to all building materials and products, and now all national program operators must follow EN 15804, and they can add additional rules, but they can't conflict. And it's used today by all European national program operators. So how is EN 15804 used in the transparency report framework? We have taken EN 15804 and we've generalized it. Now it can be used for not just the building products industry, but for any product industry. Our Part A describes how to do LCA, to create transparency reports, to do LCA for transparency reports for any product in any industry. While we used it as a basis, it's been completely modified or created from the ground up for the North American market. So all of the considerations for reporting in North America have been built into Part A. But it does provide the options to be able to support both EU and North American reporting options as Part A evolves in its use over time. And what the transparency report framework does, it gives everyone the same platform for a core EPD requiring very few additional rules. This is a page out of the Part A, again based on EN 15804. that looks at the system boundary options for reporting. And as you saw in the footer, we had described cradle to gate with options, and cradle to grave are the boundary conditions that you can choose to do your LCA. And then within each of those life cycle stages, there are information modules that can be included or not included. So here's the framework, the boundary conditions in Part A. Just want to show you, here's how it shows up in the transparency report. Again, being very transparent about not only the scope of the LCA, but then which information modules are included in which life cycle stages. Now, Part B is, again, we believe a real innovation, because what it allows is for all of the rules about how to do LCA, really looking for a standardized and consistent approach to be in Part A, and that the product group definition is a very skinny, simple definition of a product group. Now, how is a product group defined? A product group is a group of products that compete and have the same functional performance and compete for the same specification. And so if we level the playing field to do the LCAs at the product group level, then the manufacturer can demonstrate through all of the other attributes of functional performance, cost, aesthetics, what they're doing to make their products greener, can demonstrate that advantage and differentiation. So the product group definition consists only of 3 sections. The functional performance, so what performance are the customers actually buying and how does the industry measure it? The functional unit, which is probably the only real technical LCA component of the product group definition. And so it's based on the functional performance. So how are we going to describe the right amount of service to be delivered to express the environmental performance? And then any additional rules that aren't in Part A that would help compare products within this group that would really be required to enhance comparability. So the product group definition request form, and I'll show you where it is. We're going to do a quick online demo. It's 1 page. It is literally a 1-page form. And here's an example of one filled out. You can see it has the initiator, any reference or research of existing PCRs or EPDs, and what was used from them or not. The functional performance attributes and standards, the links to the language for those standards, the functional unit and the rationale for that functional unit, and then any additional rules for comparability. And we've broken those rules down to help surface them, whether there are additional rules needed for clarification, just for specifically for that group, and then if there are any default life cycle stage scenarios that are going to really help produce consistent results using the same important scenarios important to that particular product group. So how does a product group definition get started? A single manufacturer can get started, a group of manufacturers can start, or an industry group can get started. If you opt to work with others, it's often when an industry is familiar with the PCR process and collaboration is the norm. You can work with an industry association. Maybe the model is that they create strawman PGDs and invite manufacturers to who make products in that group to complete them. A third party can be used to convene that group, chair the discussions, and create that draft product group definition. The path, again, part of the reason why the product group definition is a compelling path is that it's also a great way as industries decide, do we want to do industry-wide EPDs to help individual manufacturers not have to bear the expense of producing EPDs themselves? It's a great path to industry EPDs and even to product group or product benchmarks, which people have been asking for years. Once that product group definition has been created, the request is initiated, it gets posted on our site, and I'll show you where, for a 4-week public comment period. It then goes to the Technical Advisory Board, where the TAB reviews the product group definition request, and all of the public comment that has come in makes a final ruling, and the initiators and then anyone else can get started on their life cycle assessments. Now, very quickly, I just want to reiterate, how is this PCR process different, and really what are the benefits? So yes, it's a 2-part PCR process. The benefit is how they work together. All of the rules about how to do the LCA, so they don't have to get rewritten every time, are in Part A. The rules just about the product group definition are in Part B. Both Part A and Part B can be continually improved. Part A and Part B are always on our site. They're always open for comment. And we have a structured review and publishing process for each part. So as we learn and people use them and the system evolves, everyone can evolve and get smarter and better over time, rather than trying to spend a lot of time up front that is costly and really keeps people out of the game. They can't get started until everything has been done. And so we, based on all the research that we did, looked at all of the processes that existed, we felt taking the best parts of what people are doing today, putting them together in a re-engineered process means that people can get going with a dramatically reduced front end of time and cost and continue to improve over time. I do want to make a point, why our 2-part PCR process? Why choose our 2-part PCR process? Because there are others in Europe. And so 2-part PCR process that exists in Europe is based on EN 15804. And so because that process is based on EN 15804 and our process is based on EN 15804, the system boundary and the allocation rules are aligned. So LCAs done in compliance with either PCR are expected to produce similar results. Now, with the caveat of any of the causes that create differences in EPDs today, such as data sources, inclusions, exclusions. But what it really boils down to ultimately is that the Transparency Report program, it's a program that has a lot of benefits and a lot of deliverables versus a PCR and an EPD. It's been designed really from the ground up with the North American market in mind versus being adapted from an EU process where EU participation is still required. The focus on the product group rather than the broad product category, which really has created a lot of conflict in certain industries where there aren't enough product categories, PCRs, to really express all the different types of products in that industry. So all the rules have kind of gotten put into one. And so rather than kind of having an umbrella that tries to level the playing field, just to simplify the PCR process, we've simplified the PCR process by saying, focus on the product group. Let's put all of the standardized requirements in one part, and let's focus on the product group. And let's make a useful deliverable, which is the transparency report, lives in the cloud, makes the information meaningful and understandable, and helps drive greener purchase decisions. So as of today, our Part A is available for public review and comment, and we've added Program Operator to our business operations. I'm going to show you a quick demo because we're going to encourage you to go to our website, which you can see here. You can click here on this tab or click here on the Transparency Report program link. Learn all about the Transparency Report program. Here, Part A in review. You can download Part A and download the comment form right here. You can also download and read the governance and program rules. Here on the right-hand side, on every page in this section, you can download Part A, you can download the product group definition template, again, the program and governance rules. But I want to show you a real transparency report. And this particular transparency report is right in the midst of the verification and certification process. So when that's happening, again, it makes it easier for the verifier and certifier. The report is up on the web. They are not made publicly available until they're published, but for the purposes of demonstration, Toto has permitted us to use this particular report as a demo. So you can see the image, the description, the performance dashboard, again, the features and functions, the environmental performance, links to other sites, or the Toto site that they might want to send you to for additional product specifications, a contact form for allowing customers to contact the manufacturer. By the way, when this report goes live, this contact form will go to a Toto dealer locator. For now, it goes to a Sustainable Minds interface simply because it's an example report. But this is how we're helping to connect buyers and sellers by sending anyone looking at a transparency report to whatever location the manufacturer wants to send folks to contact their sales reps. Here's page 2. Again, you can see the scope and summary, functional unit, declared unit, material composition. Here on the right side, a very simple description of what's causing the greatest impacts, where in the life cycle, sensitivity analysis, and here the manufacturer can actually start talking about the programs they've put in place to improve the environmental performance of their products. Now we get into the detailed LCA results. You can see in this particular LCA, Toto included almost every information module. So even though it is cradle to grave, these 2 information modules were not included. You can see our single figure scores help the non-lifecycle assessment professional understand the relative impacts. And so you can see, yes, the impacts really are in production, but way in use, which is probably understandable given that this is a flush valve. So lots of water getting used. And then below that, we have all of the characterized results and all of the Tracy impact categories. Again, where it's valued in the rating systems, and ultimately the links to the framework Toto will have a link to an LCA background report so that folks can see how the LCA was written in compliance with the transparency report framework. And then this is the part that, I'm pretty excited about, and the folks at Toto and other manufacturers we've spoken to. And you can tell all the stories that are meaningful to this product of how you're improving the environmental performance of your product. This is really great for sales reps who can get in front of a customer or can be on the phone, get a customer to log in. You can look at this together. Great way to give a demo. So we're really talking about helping product manufacturers help their customers make greener decisions across the decision-making process of specifying products. If I go back to our PowerPoint to wrap up. Again, here's the continuous improvement loop. The way you actually engage in the transparency report program, it happens in two phases. Phase one is definition, so defining the product group definition and the number of transparency reports that you're going to want to produce. So that specifically, I want to jump to that because we already started talking about the product group definition. But the decision of how many transparency reports to produce is a sales and marketing decision. It's the same decision as deciding how many brochures are we going to produce. Do we sell this product as a product line? Do we sell it as individual products? How many pieces of literature do we use today to sell these products? Therefore, how many transparency reports will we need to produce? Now, a transparency report can be for a single product. It can be for a product in a series. It can be for distinct products or multiple products in a series. Based on the number of reports that you want to produce, it will describe the number of LCAs that you're going to need to do. Now, last year when we did, for example, the LCAs for 5 transparency reports for 5 Toto toilets, it was based on 1 LCA. So there is a definition process that happens at the beginning. Going back to starting with the product group definition, anyone can get started, any manufacturer can get started whether you already have an existing LCA, so you can use the parameters from your LCA to describe the product group. And then all you have to do is go back to that existing LCA and tune it up, because you've already done the inventory, you've already collected the data. You'll need to recalculate and be specific about the system boundaries, but the work to recalibrate an existing LCA to be compliant with the framework should not be a precipitous amount of work. So how long it takes you, whether you do it as an initial individual manufacturer and you get feedback from the marketplace, or you work with a group, that time frame is up to you. Once that PGD has been initiated, we will commit to this time frame, a 4-week public comment and 2-week for tab approval, to get that back and then let you get started working on your LCAs. Now, I really want to emphasize the transparency report program is intended to scale the amount of product transparency that happens in the world. That means we invite every LCA practitioner to learn how to deliver LCAs to the transparency report framework and offer transparency reports as one of their deliverables, and to expand the set of offerings or the suite of offerings that you offer to your manufacturing customers. Now, Sustainable Minds will also work with a manufacturer to deliver an LCA, whether it's supporting your internal folks or whether we do the preponderance of the work, but we really are looking forward to expanding our network of partners to refer manufacturers to those partners who are qualified to deliver LCAs to the transparency report framework. Once the LCA is done, again, you can decide, do I want my LCA verified or do I not? So that's the definition phase. The next phase is content creation, production, and launch. And so creating the content for the transparency report involves pulling in some sales and marketing people, your LCA people, because they're creating the content for page 2. But your marketing people are creating the content for page 1 and 3. And there's a collaboration between that team. So we have a very structured process that we facilitate. Then you can decide whether you want your report certified. Again, that's optional. Now, working with NSF for this past amount of time, we've really worked together to determine how to streamline that process. It's possible to verify the LCA and have that verification process overlap with the certification process to really collapse that time frame for doing verification and certification. Because it's a standardized process and because it's structured, verifiers and certifiers can do that process much more efficiently. Once we launch your transparency report in the showroom, it's live, we market it. You can drive folks there, you can link from your site, you can use it in your social media, and then we'll also, following on that, deliver you back, working with your LCA people and your product development people, delivering back your data in a private data set with some modeling started so you can get going. So end of the day, we believe that everybody participating in the program benefits. Manufacturers save time, it costs less, you get better results, industry associations can play an appropriate role, LCA service providers have a new offering they can add to their services. Ultimately, the decision makers, the customers, have better, easier, credible information they can use to make better purchase decisions and reward manufacturers for making greener products, and themselves get rewarded for getting points in the rating systems. And the rating systems fulfill what they've set out to do, which is to help get more greener buildings in this particular industry, get more greener buildings built. So that's the end of our webcast. Believe it or not, the questions that have come in came in, but then pretty much got answered. So having said that, what I'm going to do is thank you all for attending and encourage you to give us some feedback in the exit survey on the way out. And we look forward to following up with you as well. Thanks again and have a great day. And please visit our website, comment on Part A, take a look at Part B, explore that section. We will be posting the recording of this webcast on our site next week. And thanks again for your time. Take care.